Hello, everybody. It is November now. Ali V and Kirsty Reeds, who are two booktubers, they're doing a monthly readathon that they created called the Bloomin readathon. It's so cute. I think Ali drew it. It's adorable. It's like very plant themed. I'll show it right here. And it's got 25 boxes with mostly plants and wildlife, and they each represent a different type of book. And then the middle space is free. It's really unique what I've seen. I thought it was really cool. I don't read a lot of variety, like a large variety of books, so I thought that I could try to participate in this challenge because it's my first challenge that I would have ever participated in, and I really like the aesthetics of it and I really like the intentions behind it, so I'm gonna try it out. It is November 3rd already, so I'm a bit into the challenge already. This weekend though, on October 30th and 31st, so technically not November, I finished the second half of The Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. I stopped reading this in like August, I think, and I was in the middle of part 3, and then within 2 days I finished the book. And this is a thick book. I read for probably like at least 12 hours. It was so good and so exciting. This is the second book in the Stormlight Archive. If you don't know about any of Brandon Sanderson's stuff, or specifically the Stormlight Archive, it's a high fantasy taking place in this world called Roshar. How do I explain it? It's a world where there's these things called high storms, and every few days or few weeks, there's these huge high storms that come across the country. They start at something called the Origin, and they go over not the country but the whole continent, and if you step outside during a high storm, you're gonna die. Basically, the storms are very violent and extreme. There's insane amounts of rain, like, and winds that will tear buildings down and like will basically rip you apart. The currency is these things called spheres, and the spheres are different types of gems. So there's like diamonds, rubies, emeralds, sapphires, stuff like that. They each have different values, of course, and they're charged with stormlight, which the high storms basically recharge the spheres, and the spheres glow. Like, they're the main light source next to like fire. I mean, it's the main currency, and it's a power source for things like, they call them fabrials. It's basically electricity. I don't know how to say it. It's electricity that's recharged by these high storms. And so in this continent, there's many different countries that have different cultures and are run in different styles, different methods. The main country that we take place in is Althkar, and the people are Alethi. Beginning of the series starts as the Alethi king was assassinated 5 years ago by a new type of people that hadn't been discovered yet, called the Parshendi. The Alethi discover the Parshendi, and suddenly the Parshendi hire this guy to assassinate the king. He succeeds, the king dies, and the Alethi start a war on the Parshendi in the middle of the Shattered Plains. However, the Shattered Plains, it's basically what it sounds like. It's a flat land of rock, and the earth itself has been shattered, and so that there's huge chasms. It's like a gigantic corn maze, basically. And there are these creatures called chasm fiends that are like gigantic crabs, like huge crabs, that when they lay their eggs, there's a gigantic gem heart in them. And gem hearts are what is used to make fabrials and spheres. And so these gigantic gem hearts are worth a lot of money. And so while the Alethi are battling the Parshendi, they're also staying and living at the Shattered Plains because they have a huge amount of income that comes from the gem hearts. That's the premise of the book. There's so much lore. This is the second book, and the first book is the same size as this one. It's about 1,300 pages. There's a lot of information to get through, but that's pretty much the gist of it. There's these guys called the heralds. They're pretty much gods. They're not God, but they're higher than kings. They're basically gods, but they're not God himself. They come from the Almighty, who is God. Anyway. And the heralds were around many thousands of years ago until they decided that they needed to go away for the sake of humanity. They left behind things called the Knights Radiant, and the Knights Radiant are groups of magical people who fall under the heralds, each class of herald basically, and their like representative traits. So different things like justice, loyalty, strength, honor, stuff like that. And these Radiants are people who basically betrayed the continent of Roshar, not just the Lucky people, but the Radiants can be anyone from anywhere. And the Radiants apparently betrayed the common people and died out thousands of years ago. All of these things about the heralds and the Radiants are basically myths. People don't really necessarily believe that they were really a thing. It's more like legend. And this book series is about what happens when the Knights Radiant come back to save the world. It's a pretty cool concept. I'm pretty sure I didn't spoil anything. I'm pretty sure that's all known. It's a lot of information off the bat, and there's so much information. But Brandon Sanderson writes so well. The detail and like learning new things about the lore and growing with the characters is just so fantastic. Paladin is my favorite character, although Shallan is also a great character. I pretty much love all the characters in this book. I would, if you like fantasy, I would definitely try this book series, although it is very dense and might be a bit complicated. It might be a bit much if you've never read any fantasy before, but if you take it slowly, it should go well. Anyway, I finished Words of Radiance and started Oathbringer, which is the next book. It looks even thicker. I don't think it is though, but now I gotta get to this one. I might be trying to read Oathbringer this month, as well as Edge Dancer, which is like a side book that takes place in this world about one of the characters called Lift, who we discover in this book. Lift is like anyway, we follow the story about Lift. I'm not going to talk about Lift at all. So that's what I'm starting off this month's reading with. Then for some easier reading, I downloaded some books by Sawyer Bennett, who when I was a bit younger, I read one of her hockey series, the Cold Fury series. I read the first 4 books in that series as they were coming out, and they were pretty good. They were fun. It was just like typical romance stuff with hockey involved, and so I thought, okay, it'll be easy. She's got another series called the Arizona Vengeance. The covers are shirtless men, as you can see. And so I started Bishop, which is the first book in this Arizona Vengeance series, and I'm 20% in, and it is not great. The writing isn't awful, but the characters are very lackluster, and it started off immediately with the characters going for it, and they have no chemistry. There was no build up for chemistry or nothing to... I really am not interested in it, and I don't think I'm going to finish it because I don't think I'm going to gain anything whatsoever from it, including like romance. Like the thing I want from like an easy romance novel is to feel like refreshed and to feel excited about it, but this one's just super boring. I don't like where the story's going, and so I think I'm gonna stop reading it, and I'm probably not gonna continue on reading the Sawyer Bennett stuff, but I also want to try to read some Marianne's Pata or some of Helena Hunting's romance books. There's also a book that Chandler Ainsley suggested called The Relationships Pact by Adriana Locke, and it's a trilogy where Adriana Locke wrote the last book, but 2 other authors wrote the first and second book, and so I'm gonna try that one out as well to see how it goes. Otherwise, I have a long list of other books that I want to read. I want to finish The Burning God by R.F. Kuang. I want to read some of the Sally Rooney books that I have, and I want to start and finish some books that I have for friends' gifts that I kind of want to do like buddy reads with for Christmas. So I gotta get a head start on that one. But hopefully this month I can try to do a lot of reading. I started off good by finishing a book, The Words of Radiance, that I really wanted to finish. So we're starting off well. In other news, yesterday I bought this cup, this mug. It's a metal one that's like insulated, and it's got this lid on it. It's like just a little spinny lid. Here I use a lot of metal cups, like insulated metal cups. As you can see, this one's massive because they hold heat and cold well, and they don't like leak. Like plastic cups, if you have a cold drink, they like condensate on the outside, and so there's water always everywhere, but metal cups don't do that. And unfortunately, when I drink coffee in the morning, my glass mugs go cold so quickly, and they're pretty small, and so I wanted to buy a new mug that I liked. And yesterday at the grocery store I saw like a lilac picture mug, and it was pretty big, kind of weird, but also glass. And then I saw this one. It's just like a blue, it's pretty big. It's almost like 475 milliliters, which is pretty large for a mug, and it's insulated in metal, and it has a lid. And so I was like, okay, this is a good thing. It's going good. And then when I looked inside, I have a drink in here, that's why. They have these like pincers to take the lid apart to clean it well. And that's the one thing that I need in an insulated cup, so that it doesn't get like gross and start to smell because you can't clean it well. This lid, you can clean it perfectly. And so I was like, I'm absolutely buying this. For hot drinks, for cold drinks, I can clean it well, I can travel with it. This is the newest, best thing in my entire life. I'm so excited about it. I'm so happy. Everyone should very much consider investing in a well-insulated metal cup. It's pretty much the perfect device. The most perfect, simple device. If you like drinking drinks, please invest in a good cup. Your life will be changed. That is all. Thank you for listening to my commercial. See you later. Hello, now it is Thursday, and I just took a shower, which is why I look like this. Just thought I'd update everything. I am a third of the way through The Night Circus by one Aaron Morgenstern. I found this copy of the book, the paperback, at a used bookstore here, and I got so excited. I just like finding used books that I am planning to read or that I've been wanting to read for a while. My thoughts so far are pretty good. Hello, it's future me here to explain the premise of The Night Circus because I failed to do that. The Night Circus is about a special circus that appears anywhere on the globe randomly. It takes place during the late 1800s. And the book basically is about two magicians who are competing against each other. And so the book is about the lives of the magicians, the people around the magicians, and the circus itself, how it was made, the people who are there, and the stories that have been made at the circus. Yeah, that's about it. Back to reading. The tone of this book, the tone and like the mood that it creates is really exactly what I was expecting when I heard about this book the first time and when I've been listening to everybody's reviews and thoughts on the book. But the writing and like the execution of the tone is better than what I was expecting. So I'm pretty I'm having a pretty good time reading this, which I'm happy about because I was expecting not to like this for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. It's so hyped. I've been hearing everyone talk about it for 5 years, like since I've been in high school. The writing in here is much more mature and like intricate and detailed. It's very, I don't want to say it's like professional because obviously she's a professional, she's an author, but like it's really good. Like it's definitely a one-of-a-kind thing that I haven't experienced before in terms of like writing style or like the type of details. I don't know, it's good. The details are so intricate and so interesting. I was initially anticipating this to be more like a young adult fantasy kind of, and there's no reason why it can't be read as young adult. It just has a more mature atmosphere, even though there's lots of like kids' perspectives in here. It's just a very mature atmosphere, which I'm enjoying. And Erin Morgenstern writes crazy good imagery. Her imagery is very detailed, very realistic. There's a passage about a clock being created, and when it's like a cuckoo clock kind of. It's a fancy one for the circus. And there's like 2 full pages of explaining what the clock does, and it's just like so fully expressed that there's no way that I missed anything. And so yeah, I'm really enjoying this. Hopefully I can finish it tonight. I've got some stuff to do, but I want to see where this story goes. It's supposed to be a romance, and so I'm excited to get to the romantic parts if they do come. So let's see what happens. Saturday afternoon. Yesterday morning, trying to stand up out of bed, I dislocated my knee, which was awesome. Just thought I'd throw that in there to say how I'm doing. However, that did not deter me from going to a cafe and getting dinner, and also finishing the night circus. I thought the book was good, and I thought the writing was very good. And I liked the book up to a certain point. I would say I liked the book up to the point where Bailey is hanging out at the circus with Widget and Poppet. After that, it started to drag a bit for me, even though it was interesting to find out the final details of the story after reading for a long time about it. I don't think I enjoyed the conclusion very much. It didn't seem very conclusive to me. It was a bit abrupt, and the romance I didn't really enjoy. I wish that Marco would have been much more honest and communicative to Isabel. It kind of felt weird to me about the romance going on while Isabel was still very much in the picture there at the circus doing important stuff. However, like the story about the circus, I really enjoyed. And I liked pretty much all of the characters. I liked the different storylines with the characters and like the original creators of the circus and Bailey. I thought that it made the story good. I think if the story was just about Celia and Marco, I would be a bit bored, and so I'm glad that there was the other aspects of the story. I would probably give it a 3 out of 5 stars because, like I said, I can tell that the book is good and that the writing is really good, and it's a unique experience reading this book, but it's not a favorite of mine, and I didn't fully enjoy it. It was more interesting to read. I had to keep pushing myself to keep reading. There wasn't a lot there that was like, I didn't want to keep reading more. I don't know how else to say it. Like, I kind of got bored eventually. and I wasn't motivated to continue reading. And I read slowly, so it took me a long time to finish this because the writing is kind of more complicated and detailed. You really have to pay attention. And so it took me a long time. And so by the time I was at the end, I was kind of just tired and annoyed that it had taken this long, but the story is still good. So yeah, The Night Circus. Read it. Last night, I started, right after finishing The Night Circus, I started Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren because I saw it on a YouTube video that I saw randomly, and then like a few minutes later I saw it on a TikTok randomly, and both of the reviews were good reviews of it. I hadn't really heard about it before, so I was like, I think I should give this book a try. And it's really good so far. The writing is so much simpler than The Night Circus, but also very like hooking, like catching. Like I do want to read more about this one. And I like that this one's just a straight up romance without any other crazy stuff to have to pay attention to. So I want to read more of Love in Other Words today. So I'll come back when I've got more thoughts on Love in Other Words. It is Monday morning. Yesterday I read all of Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. Love in Other Words is it's a romance and friendship book about the main characters Macy and Elliot, who, when Macy gets a summer home in Northern California, she meets Elliot and his family. They both share a love of reading, and so they spend many hours during the summer and on weekends reading together, like constantly, and they develop kind of a really strong bond and love for each other. So the story is about, it starts with how they haven't seen each other in like 11 years and what happened on that one night 11 years ago that made them separate, even though they have this like super strong connection. And the book goes back and forth between now and then, bouncing back to current time, and then the years leading up to like what happened. And it's just from one perspective. It's only from Macy's perspective. Honestly, I think I would have enjoyed it if it was also from Elliot's perspective. Overall, I think I would give the book 3 stars. I really felt the connection between the characters. The chemistry was definitely there, and I liked both of the characters, and I also liked the supporting characters as well. I'm just making a quick rosé. We've got onion for lunch and the coffee. Good. I found the good equilibrium of sauce, so I'm not dying in pain. But anyway, the book. Back to the book. I really wish that there was another perspective to see Macy's character, because at times I found that she was a bit of a pushover, and that it was hard for her to make decisions, that I wish she could have come to conclusions faster. But of course, that's not how it works in real life. It was just kind of frustrating, a little bit annoying to read about some things. She was definitely avoiding heavily emotional things so that she wouldn't have to feel them because of the traumas that she's been through. But it was pretty easy to ignore her being like slightly annoying. She wasn't a bad character. I still think she was a pretty good protagonist. I just like I don't know, I just would have liked to see another perspective so I could like get how other people feel about her instead of just how she's reacting to things. Like, that's the only perspective I saw. And I definitely cried at the end of the book. It was definitely a sad book. Not like the most original, but definitely heartfelt. And yeah, I sobbed at the end. But overall, it was like, yeah, it was like a 3 out of 5 stars. It was a good book. I enjoyed it. It wasn't like extraordinary in terms of like, whoa, this book was amazing. Like, I didn't feel like that way. And the writing was good in like a simple way. Like what I would have hoped it to read like, it did. Like, wasn't too cringy or like awkward in some places. Like, the author kept the flow good, especially because the chapters were really short. So yeah, I would probably read some more of Christina Lauren's stuff, maybe, if I like the premise of one of the books. But yeah, I just decided to pick this one up because I was seeing a bunch of reviews about it, even though it came out in 2018. So I was like, okay, I'll give it a try too. And this is where we are. I also read The Love Hypothesis. That was one of the more recent romances that I also read. And The Love Hypothesis I thought was really good. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I very much enjoyed it a lot. I thought the writing was like fast-paced and quirky, and I really enjoyed the main character's perspective in The Love Hypothesis. And I also really liked the love interest and just the whole dynamic going on with her friends, everything. It was really enjoyable. So I guess I'm comparing it to The Love Hypothesis, and then it's not my favorite, but still good and still recommendable. Anyway, yes. So this first week of the readathon, I finished 3 books, and I fully read 2 books. I finished Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson, The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, and Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. And this week I have exams. This upcoming week, the second week of November, I have exams, so I might not be able to get in a ton of reading, but I'm still gonna try because that's just how I am. Yeah, so thanks for watching this reading vlog. I'm definitely going to post more reading vlogs during the month of November for the Bloomin readathon. And yeah, see you next week with the next vlog.